Hello everybody, here we are today doing a first round series review between the Carolina Hurricanes and the New York Islanders. So before we get started with it, please make sure to subscribe if you're new to me or hockey, whatever the case may be. That being said, let's get on into it. And in Game 1, New York travels down to Carolina to play the Hurricanes, and it would be Evgeny Kuznetsov that would score the opening goal of this series. Cool to see for a guy that played a long time for the Washington Capitals, produce for another team, and it would be the Islanders who would respond next, as it's Kyle McLean, an NHL rookie, who scores for them to make it 1-1 after the first period. In the second period, you would see the Islanders outshoot the Hurricanes 13-6. However, no goals were scored, and it's 1-1 after 40 minutes of play. And then in the third period, we would see Nason score for the Hurricanes, as we would see a lot of combined total shots in this final frame. But it would be Natchez that would score a empty net goal to make it 3-1 as the Hurricanes win Game 1. Tough game for the Islanders as they were able to outshoot the Hurricanes 34-26. They go 0-for-3 on the power play, whereas Carolina, I believe, went 1-for-2. And either way you look at this, I guess for the Isles to only lose this game by 2 goals isn't the worst thing. So Game 2 may just be the most interesting game of the series, as you have the Islanders that won't want to go down 2-0 in this series. And in the opening part of the first period, you're thinking maybe there's not going to be any goals going down to the final few minutes, and it'd be Kyle Palmieri that would score a goal for the Isles to give them a 1-0 advantage. And then Bo Horvat in the last 15 seconds of the first is able to score a goal as they go 2-0. And then in the start of the second period, it'd be Anders Lee with a power play goal in the first few minutes of the second. And with this, they have a 3-0 advantage, and they have a 90% chance of winning the game up to this point. Then in the second period, you would see Teuvo Teravainen score a goal for the Hurricanes to get them on the board. It's 3-1 though, and after 40 minutes, the Islanders know they're 20 away from winning this game and having home ice advantage. So in the third period, they kick things off, trying to, again, just drain the clock. You would see with about 10 minutes to go, though, Seth Jarvis would score a goal. So it's 3-2 Islanders. They have a lead, but it is just now a 1-goal lead, and they're thinking we just have to find a way to get out of here. Unfortunately for them, with about 2 minutes left to go in the game, you would see 2 goals in the span of 9 seconds, and they were for the Hurricanes. So now Carolina has the lead 4-3 with not a lot of time remaining. And unfortunately for the Islanders, again, too, it is an empty net goal for the Hurricanes as they go on to win this 5-3. The Islanders were 81-0, I believe, all time in games, playoff games, mind you, that they had been up 3 goals or more. So there's a first time for everything here as the Isles go on to lose this one. They're outshot 29-5 over the final 2 periods. I believe they were outshot something like 17-1 over the final period. The Cizikas, Horvat, and Barzal line did not play particularly well in this one either. A lot of guys ended up having just weird results in the game, but still for the Islanders, knowing that they probably should have been going back to New York with a win, and instead, after leading for 25 minutes, going back with a defeat, not a great thing. So Game 3 is, of course, in New York, and the Islanders want to be able to get a good start and not go down 3-0 against the Hurricanes in this series. They end up making a switch in net. Semyon Varlamov is swapped out with Ilya Sorokin, and the Isles are hoping for a good start. Problem is, they don't get that, as you would see in the first 10 minutes. 2 Hurricanes defensemen, that being Brent Burns and Dmitry Orlov, score goals for them as they're up 2-0. Now, the good news for the Islanders is that after the first period, they have 15 shots, which is 3 more than they had the entire game in Game 2. So there is something you can say is good here. And then in the second period, Engvall would score a goal for the Islanders, but not long after that, it would be Sebastian Aho that scores a goal for his team to make it 3-1. And at this point, you would see Sorokin end up getting pulled after allowing 3 goals on 14 shots, and Semyon Varlamov is brought back in for this game. We would see a Brock Nelson goal to make it 3-2, and in the third period, we would see the Islanders outshoot the Hurricanes 11-3, and in that span, of course, hoping to get that game-tying goal. It never happens, though, as the Hurricanes pick up this victory and are 1 win away from eliminating the New York Islanders in a sweep in the first round. So Game 4 is a do-or-die game for the Islanders, and they go back to Varlamov in net. Again, Sorokin started Game 3. However, they're going to be trying to get a good start here. But unfortunately, it would be Seth Jarvis that scores a goal here for the Hurricanes to give them the early lead. The good news is, though, that Matt Barzal scores his first goal of the series, and after 40 minutes of play, it is all tied at 1-1. The Islanders need to be able to pick up a victory here, or they're going home. And then in the third period, you know the nerves are probably going around everywhere as both teams want to be able to see themselves pick up a win. The Islanders want to be able to see a Game 5 in New York. The Hurricanes want to just get this thing done and over with, and it would be Jean-Gabriel Pageau, JPG, that scores a power play goal after missing the early part of this series to give the Islanders their first series lead since the Game 2, where they had a 3-0 advantage. And then, unfortunately for them, Nason would score a goal for the Hurricanes to make it 2-2, which means, of course, we get overtime. And in the first overtime, there is no goals, which means double OT. Whoever wins this game is going to be celebrating big time, and now we get to see. So in double overtime, after seeing the Hurricanes have a really good first overtime period, it is instead the Islanders that win this game thanks to a Matt Barzal deflection, his second goal of the game, and the Islanders are not swept. They're pushing back and getting a Game 5 in New York. And this is, of course, not really something that the Hurricanes wanted to deal with, knowing that they can probably win the series and get a little bit of a break before round 2. And then in Game 5, it seems like the Hurricanes mean business, as in the opening parts of this game, within the first few minutes, you would see Teuvo Teravainen score a goal, and then not long after him, it'd be Andrei Svechnikov that would score his first goal of the series, as they take an early 2-0 lead in trying to get this thing done instead of having to go back for a Game 6. Mike Riley does score in the first period for the Isles, but Evgeny Kuznetsov would score as well, and this one off of a penalty shot. A lot of people always complain about how he takes his penalty shots, but it's just the way it is, or how he does things when he does shootouts. All of these situations, of course, still lead to the fact that the Hurricanes are leading 3-1 after 1 and are 40 minutes away from moving on to the second round. In the second period, with the Islanders having a 2-goal deficit from it even being tied, they go out there and see Brock Nelson score a goal, and then Casey Cizikas scores an interesting one there near the end of the second period. And surprisingly, the Isles have been able to claw their way back into this game as it is tied heading into the final 20. And then in the third period, you would see a meltdown by the Isles as Drury and Nason end up scoring 2 goals 8 seconds apart. So they give up the goal where it is 4-3 at that point, and you're thinking we have to be able to rally back from this because there's not a lot of time left. And then less than 10 seconds later, the season really feels like it's over. Seth Jarvis does add an empty net goal here, and for the series, it is done as the Hurricanes pick up a victory in Game 5. Probably could have got it done in Game 4, but either way, they're happy knowing that they're going on and advancing in the playoffs. As for the Islanders, they are headed home. So looking back at the season series, I don't have as many detailed notes as this one is for some other series, but just thinking off the top of my head, one thing that was really prevalent here was the fact that the Hurricanes were able to respond quickly with multiple goals in very short amount of time, and they were critical. Looking at Game 2, where they scored 2 goals in 9 seconds, and then in Game 5, where they scored 2 goals in 8 seconds, that was something that had huge implications for this series. Otherwise, you know, the Isles are looking at possibly maybe pushing this thing to 6 games. It's really tough to say, but that had an impact. You're looking at some other things too, like the fact that Game 2, the Hurricanes were able to showcase what they were really able to do for huge chunks of this series, which was dominate chances, dominate shots, and try to make life miserable for the Islanders. The fact that they won the game was crazy considering the Isles had a 3-0 lead, but over the course of this series, they were able to have just, again, big runs where they had a lot of shots, a lot of time in the Islanders' offensive zone, or defensive zone I should say, and Freddie Anderson was able to put together a good series. I'm not really blaming Semyon Varlamov here for the numbers that he will put up at the end of this, as again, the Islanders made it very difficult for their goalies, whether that be Sorokin, whether that be for Varlamov. One of the deals where the Hurricanes have more depth is showed, and the Gensel, Aho, and Svechnikov line looked pretty good during this series as well. So for the Islanders, of course, their season is done, as I'm sure you're all aware, and this is a year that is a lot of intrigue to see if next year can be, again, a third-place finish in the Metro, but maybe build off of this, be less streaky like we talked about in the season or the series preview against the Hurricanes. The Islanders were up and down along the way. They got a new head coach. The power play wasn't really anything ideal. There's some things that you could probably say the team has got going right for them, but at the same time too, we know they're old. We know that they've got some guys that are on some contracts that really are not ideal, and they are a team that looks like they're bound to be a first-round exit, or at least a team that you wouldn't expect to win a cup anytime soon. And then you also have to look at the fact too that the Islanders have been knocked out 3 times in the past 6 years by the Hurricanes in the playoffs. They haven't made it all 6 seasons, but the Canes have been the team that's in their way. As for the Hurricanes, things were able to be taken care of relatively well. There's not a lot of drama. They win in 5 games. Probably, again, could have won in Game 4 to make it a little bit easier on them, but they get the job done. This is their 7th postseason series win in the Rod Brind'Amour era, and they are, for the 3rd time, looking to get back to at least the Eastern Conference Final, and for the 1st time, looking to try to get to the Stanley Cup Final and win their 2nd championship in franchise history. This is one of the first steps in being able to do so, and if I'm not mistaken, I believe they'll take on the Rangers in the 2nd round, but that is for a series preview. But anyway, what are your thoughts on this series? Let me know down below in the comments. Also, please make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. Everybody stay safe. Have a great night. And you go love hockey already. Goodbye, Brigadiers and Brigadettes. This is your captain signing off. Have a great night.